I am coming in with my first story time video for you guys today. This is gonna be about the world's sketchiest drug dealer, alright? So, for a bit of backstory, I've known this guy since I was in freshman year. We had a class together. It was basically a glorified study hall room where we're forced to sit around and communicate and fuck around with the people that you're in class with, alright? So, that was kind of terrible. He didn't like me, I didn't really like him. We eventually ended up having a gym class together the second semester of freshman year, and long story short, him and a couple of his friends decided that it would be cool to like make fun of me and shit. I remember one key thing they called me was pepperoni face, alright? Pepperoni face, because I had some badass acne at the time, alright? So, they were dicks to me, they were dicks to my friends. So eventually at one point we actually decided to, me and a buddy of mine, we wrote a diss track on this kid. And you know, let's call this kid Henry, alright? We're gonna call this kid Henry, so there's a name. Name's obviously changed for privacy, but let's just call him Henry. So we wrote a diss track on Henry. We didn't end up releasing it. I know, we're so fucking scary, right? He was kind of a badass kid, you know? He was always getting suspended, and then I would say throughout the majority of high school, this kid was probably out of school more than he was in school. He was always getting suspended, always getting in trouble, always had drugs at school. It was a good fucking time. He ended up being a lot more chill whenever it came to junior and senior year. He was a lot more of a laid-back guy then. I don't know if it was because of all the shit he went through. I know he had some family problems and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, he ended up coming to be a lot more of a chill guy at the time. And then we got to know each other a little bit more during that ACT Lab class, you know, during that glorified study hall bullshit. We got to know each other a little bit more through there. We didn't end up ever talking outside of school, though. After we ended up graduating, which was in 2018, I didn't see him at all during the summer. I didn't talk to him at all during the summer, but I ended up actually seeing him at a college that I went to I only went there for a semester, and then I did some online shit there. That kind of sucked ass, but anyway, so I saw him there a few times, didn't have any classes with him, but I basically just dapped him up a few times, said, "What's up, dude? How's it going?" That was about it. Then he ends up adding me on Snapchat, like, out of the blue. You know, I never had this guy on Snapchat, didn't follow him on Instagram, didn't have him on Facebook, you know, none of that social media shit, didn't talk to this guy, didn't have his phone number, nothing. And he ends up just randomly out of the blue adding me on Snapchat, and I see on this guy's story that there is just a ridiculous amount of weed, like a absolute fucking buttload of weed. Now, I don't know how he came to get all this, but long story short, this dude had pounds on pounds of bud, he had a shitload of carts, he had what looked like at least 10 different slabs of wax. This guy was rolling in the shits, okay? So I see this and I immediately got intrigued, you know, it piqued my interest per se. Let's just say I was a very curious man. So I end up hitting him up, and long story short, we kind of worked out a deal. I was gonna go there and buy 4 carts from him, as well as a zip of bud. Now, my thing was, at the time, I was really big into the carts, wasn't really smoking no bud, but I was flipping it, you know, so I buy the carts, buy the bud, hopefully bud pays off the carts, you know. Anyway, so the day I decided to meet up with this guy, I was working until about 8:30, 9 o'clock, so it was gonna be late already when I was getting off, and it was kind of that time of year. I live in the Midwest, so it's kind of that time of year where it was getting a little dark out really early, so by 7 o'clock, sun's down, it's pitch black, right? So when I end up leaving work, it's pitch fucking black outside, alright? So the drive there was already gonna be fucking terrible. My depth perception at night is god-awful. I can't see shit. It's just terrible. So it was about a 45-minute drive out to this town he lived in. Now, the town he lived in wasn't necessarily a bad place per se. It's kind of one of those that's 50-50, where there's some spots that are good, some spots that are bad. So I was kind of taking my chances, you know. I was hoping it was gonna work out good. So he ends up shooting me this address. I pull up. On his street, he actually only had one entire street light. Now, I'm not shitting you when I say that this one area... Now, I drove around a couple times, okay? I'm kind of a nervous person, all right? I drove around the area, kind of saw what was going on, and thankfully, the only street light that happened to be in this area was directly in front of his house. So you know me, Well, you don't, but yeah, my sketchy ass decides I'm gonna park right under this fucking street light. So if anybody happens to hop out or anything sketchy goes on, I'm covered, okay? Sitting there in my car, I look over to my left. This dude's house is entirely tripping me the fuck out. Now, there's no fucking lights on, inside or out. It looks like no one's been there for at least 10, 15 years, minimum. This house is decrepit. It looks like it's falling apart. The lawn's overgrown. I didn't even think anybody lived there, honestly. So I hit him up and said, hey dude, I'm here. Now, now what proceeds to happen is the next and now one of the most torturing 5 minutes of my life is about to begin. So I'm sitting there twiddling my thumbs. You know, I'm not looking on my phone, I'm looking around. I'm kind of sketched out by this spot. And the only thing I'm waiting for is for fucking Henry here to hit me back. Now, the problem is, you know how all drug dealers are, is the second you're ready to go, they don't know where their phone's at. Their phone is in a different fucking state. They decided to fucking put in an envelope and mail it out with some random address. So at the end of the day, they're not gonna be responding to your shit. So I sent him a message and I'm sitting there twiddling my thumbs. These 5 minutes felt like 5 fucking hours, okay? My head's on a swivel, I'm looking all over the place, I don't know what the hell's going on. So finally, after the most torturous 5 minutes of my entire life, I finally get a message back from this guy, and he just says, all right, come on up. So I'm kind of sketched out at this point. I thought he was gonna bring it out to my car, I was gonna give him the cash, we were good to go. So I had to play a little bit of a audible here. So what I did was I took all the cash that I had for this stuff out of my wallet. Pro tip here, don't bring everything you have with you into some sketchy dude's house, all right? If you are gonna have to go into this dude's house, the only thing you should bring with you is the money that you owe this man, okay? So if you go in there with your entire wallet on you, you get rolled. Not only are you out the cash you brought in, but you also don't have any of your cards, you don't have your ID, you're kind of boned, dude. But if you just roll up in there with the cash and you get rolled, yeah, it sucks, you lost some cash, but at least you can get home. You have, you know, your legal documents and shit like that. You don't have to go get all your cards replaced. So I kind of made the smart decision, I guess, to leave the wallet in my glove box and just take the cash in there with me. Now, the only problem I have with guns is that I'm too broke to afford one. So instead of having one of those on me, I had some piece of shit fucking $12 knife from Amazon that had a little Spider-Man etched into it. So at the end of the day, I'm probably gonna get my ass beat if I attempt to pull that out. But makes you feel a little bit better having that on you, you know? So anyway, I end up getting out of my car, looking around, you know, head on a swivel still, and there's still no lights on in this house, but I look back at my phone, I just see him say, all right, come on up. He hasn't said anything else, but he's still in the chat. He's just staring at it, waiting for me. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I gotta go up there. So close my car, lock the door, start walking up these sketchy ass fucking falling apart concrete stairs where, if I swear to God, the second step I had up there, I nearly busted my ass because the broken ass step crumbled into pieces underneath my foot, dude. It was fantastic. So anyway, about halfway up these stairs, he opens the door and just kind of peeks his head around it. Now at this point, I had no idea what the fuck is going on. I'm walking up these sketchy ass stairs, barely being illuminated by this one tiny ass streetlight that's flickering behind me, and I can just barely get a glimpse into this man's house, and I could already tell I was in for a wild ride. Dude, the only thing I can see is piles of clothes next to a wall that used to be white, was probably supposed to be white, but had more of a yellowish, brownish hue tinge to it, with what looks like just, I couldn't even explain how dirty this wall is. It just looks like it had never been cleaned, touched up on by grubby ass kids while being constantly chain smoked inside. It's just, this house was a wreck, and this was halfway up the stairs, so I could only imagine what was to come. Now finally I end up getting to the top of the stairs, and I yell out this dude's name. I said, what's up, Henry? I go to dap him up. He daps me up, but he does not take a step away from this door. Now at this point I am shivering in my boots. I am so fucking scared because the whole left side of his body is concealed behind this door. Now this guy was not just some normal dude, he was sketchy as fuck. And my biggest problem is the fact that I can't see what this dude has in his left hand. I can't see what's on his left hip. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I'm scared. I had at least, I don't know exactly how much money it was, but it was at least like 300 bucks on me. So I was kind of freaking the fuck out. After I dapped him up, he ends up gesturing me into his house, and at this point, it was all or nothing. I can't just not walk into this dude's house and say, hey dude, you're creeping me the fuck out, can I see what you got in your left hand? Like, no, you don't just say that. So I took a deep breath and I crossed that threshold. Now, the theme of clothing with the dirty walls was not just from the entryway. Now let me tell you, I couldn't see much into this guy's house because the only light in the house, of course, was right above the front door. So I couldn't get a whole glimpse into what was going on upstairs, but the entryway and leading downstairs just fucking covered in clothes that I don't know if they were clean or dirty. I don't think anybody knew if they were clean or dirty, let's be honest. They're just laying all over the place. We got dirty ass walls. The floors look like they haven't been swept, mopped, or even looked at in at least a decade. The walls probably 2 decades, maybe even 3 if the house has been there. Actually, fuck that. Yeah, the house has definitely been there for at least that long. The house looked like it was damn near 100 years old. Anyway, so he ends up leading me down into the stairs into the basement. Now, he turned on his phone flashlight specifically so we could see on the way down there. There's no lights in this house. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but thankfully he didn't have any weapons concealed on his left side, but he was still acting kind of fucking weird. So he leads me down with me being in front of him, mind you, and we end up walking past just at least like 5,000 articles of clothing just piled up everywhere. There's a $12 folding table from Walmart that has just fucking at least like 100 articles of clothing. I'm not shitting you. So he leads me into what I could just assume is his like bedroom. I don't really know. There wasn't really anything I could make out because of how dark it was, but all I could really see when we went past these, you know, I would call them curtains, but they were more just like bed sheets that were kind of hanging from the ceiling. They had some holes in them, you know, they were kind of falling down, but that's beside the point. So we get into this quote-unquote bedroom, and the only thing in there is a TV, a shitload more clothes, like 2 mattresses, 2 couches, and another dude. I made myself laugh so hard. That sounded sus as fuck. No, this guy was his friend. This was one of his friends that was like kind of joined in on like the bullying, I guess you want to call it, back in like freshman year. So we're just gonna call this guy Harry. So when I rolled up in there, excuse me, he's sitting there smoking on a bong. So I was like, okay, you know, this guy's chill, but at the same time, the last time I had really talked to this dude, like actually talked to this dude, was freshman year. Other than that, throughout high school, like, you know, he just kind of gave me them vibes in the hallway that, like, you know, he basically hated me. But at the end of the day, I really didn't give a fuck. So I, you know, dapped him up. I'm like, hey, what's going on, Harry? How's it going? So Henry ends up sitting to the left of him, doesn't offer me a seat or anything. So I'm just kind of standing there awkwardly with both of my thumbs directly up my ass, because I'm not taking my phone out. I'm not looking at anything. I am just staring right at him because I'm still sketched the fuck out, dude. My heart's going at least 100 beats a second. I am just standing there. My palms are sweaty, knees weak. My arms are definitely heavy. I didn't puke yet though, but it was getting there. Anyway, so whenever Henry sits down next to Harry, he decides to pull out his fucking grinder, pack a bowl for the bong, smoke the bitch in one go, empty it out, pack another bowl, hand it to Harry. Harry smokes the thing in one go, empties out the bowl, hands the bong back to Henry, and Henry packs one up for me. Now, I wasn't really expecting to be smoking out of this bong, so I wasn't paying too much attention to it, but let me just tell you, this bong water was probably the most disgusting shit I've ever seen. And let me tell you, I live pretty close to the Mississippi River. That shit does not even compare to how dirty and murky and muddy and nasty and shitty this fucking bong water looked. It looked like it had been sitting there for at least a fucking month with constant bowls smoked through it, and you know them bitches be drooling in there when they're smoking on that shit, so it's just full of everyone's drool and at least fucking a month or 2 of weed smoke. So let's just say I wasn't too enthused to hit this bong, but when you're in the sketchy drug dealer's house, you gotta do what you gotta do. So I lit this bitch and I took this bowl as fast as I can. I'm normally one to inhale kind of slow so you can get all the weed out the bowl. I did not give a fuck. I ripped this bitch so I could be done with it as fast as possible. I inhaled that hit, and I blew that shit out the second it hit my lungs. And let me tell you, the amount of force it took to not start coughing and puking on this dude's floor because of the flavor of this bong water was immense. Now, normally you can get a good flavor of the weed even through, you know, a bong that hasn't been cleaned in a couple weeks. The only thing I could taste in this fucking bong was depression, okay? There was nothing about this bong or this weed that was good smoking through this shit. So finally, I hand the bong back to Mr. Henry and I said, thank you. And I don't know how sincere he thought it was, but it definitely was not sincere. Anyway, he asks me point blank if I have the cash. I just kind of stand there and I look at him and I just go, yeah. He said, all right, bet, here's what you got. Now, this man proceeds to literally throw an ounce of weed at me, and then not even a second later tosses another bag at me that has these 4 little boxes in there that have the carts in them. So, now something I want you guys to take note of is around the time in my area, those fake carts and everything hadn't really been a big thing around me. So at this point, anytime you had carts that came in a box, you could pretty much guarantee that those things were going to be legit. So if you look up like the little codes on the back, you can generally find out where they're coming from. So you can tell that they're pretty legit. And at this point, these were the most legit carts I had ever seen. So spoiler alert, they were fucking fire. Anyway, he tosses me my shit. I pull the cash out, hand it to him. He counts it out twice, says, all right, bro, you have a good night. And he proceeds to just stand up and very politely walk me to his front door. Says, hey man, you stay safe. We dapped up one more time. I didn't say anything to Harry. Fuck that dude. That dude can suck my left nut and my right one at the same time. So then I just walk outside, throw my shit in my trunk, hop in the car, and we was out the jam. So moral of the story is, I guess, don't judge anybody, you know. I thought this dude was sketchy as hell. I mean, fuck Harry, but, you know, I thought Henry was sketchy as hell, and turns out he was a pretty chill dude. I ended up buying weed from him a decent amount of times. He was my plug for, I'd say, about a year, give or take. He's a pretty chill dude, and yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. So if you stayed this long, if you enjoyed the story, please hit me with the like, hit me with the subscribe. I'm trying to grow this channel. This is my first story, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and you have a great rest of your night. Peace.